The Alabama GOP became the latest Republicans thinking they were above the law. And this is despite the fact that they got a very clear mandate from the very conservative Supreme Court in June, telling them that the redistricting they did based on the 2020 census was a violation of the Civil Rights Act. My name is Dina Sayegh Doll with MeidasTouch Network. Let's break this down. In June, the conservative Supreme Court, led by Chief Justice Roberts, joined by Kavanaugh and the other liberal justices, stopped the eroding of the Civil Rights Act and found that Alabama's redistricting violated Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Section 2 is the one that your right to vote shouldn't be abridged based on race. And they found essentially that Alabama, although they are 1 out of every 4 population is black, their district has it so only 1 out of the 7 districts is majority black. So you are diluting their vote because you are not making the district, their population proportional in the district. And so, it was almost a surprise because of how many other disappointing rulings we've seen by the Supreme Court that they did find that this was unconstitutional. They agreed with the lower 3-court judge panel, and they sent this back to Alabama with a very clear mandate. They said that Alabama needed to create a second district that was majority black in order to fix this problem of misrepresentation, essentially, or underrepresentation. So what did Alabama do? They ignored the Supreme Court, whether or not they think they're just above the law, whether or not they're just buying time. Instead of creating a second majority, they increased the black population in that second district from 30% to 40%. And in the other district, they actually decreased it from 55% to 51%. And not only that, but the way that they designed it, they made it that the incumbents, the Republican incumbents, will not have to run against each other. So this is clearly a move. I mean, we know the House is going to be hotly contested in 2024. This is clearly a move in them trying to keep power by diluting the rights of the minority and specifically the black voters in Alabama. It's not even a close call. It's definitely nowhere close to where the mandate is. Definitely a power grab. And in fact, I don't think they're actually making much of a, trying to pretend it's not a power grab. There's a quote by Senator Steve Livingston, a Republican from Scottsboro, said he had spoken with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy because, he'll lose his job, as we know, if the Republicans don't retain the majority in 2024. So he spoke with Kevin McCarthy of California before the vote on Friday, and that Mr. McCarthy said, quote, "I'm interested in keeping my majority," end quote. So, this is not about that, right? Of course you'd be interested in keeping your majority. But we do have something called the Constitution as this, I feel like I've heard every Republican talk about, whether or not they're on the House floor or someplace else, that, it's all about the Constitution. Evidently there are, no other laws, the Civil Rights Act here. I mean, but when they pick and choose, essentially, they pick and choose. And when they don't want it to apply to them, then it's okay to use politics, to use power. And so clearly here, this is a power grab. So what's going to happen? I mean, we know this has already affected the elections because when the Supreme Court, took on this case, they stayed the lower court ruling, which meant that this, now we know, this unconstitutional, this violation of the Civil Rights Act map, was in effect in the 2022 midterms. It did help elect people. There are people elected that now the Supreme Court has said that is being done, unconstitutionally. It already happened. It already happened in 2022. They kind of already won, if you think about it. And, so any delay on their part, if they can just push this out even more, it's to their advantage. What's going to happen now is that on August 14th, the same 3-judge panel that looked at this before and said that it was unconstitutional is going to look at it again. And most likely they will appoint a special master to oversee this. But the time here is what's important, because it's in the fall that, they have to have these districts in place. We are getting close to primaries. We're getting close to the general election. There's a lot that needs to be done on the ground. And so anytime that they can push this out and keep on delaying it, and maybe even bring it back to the Supreme Court, if that's their ultimate goal, to give those conservatives another chance at maybe reversing themselves, although I don't think that Chief Justice Roberts would do that so quickly. But any delay tactic they can use, they want to be able to use this unconstitutional map in yet another election cycle. So a blatant disregard for the mandate, a huge power grab, and really, just sad for our democracy. Our right to vote is essential in our democracy, and diluting it, especially based on your race, is horrible and clearly something they're willing to do, despite even the Supreme Court telling them otherwise. So we'll see on August 14th what happens there, and hope that, I'm sure everyone involved here understands that they're trying to have these delay tactics and how much they can speed it up. So that way, an actual district that reflects the Civil Rights Act is in place in time for the 2024 election.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.